Good morning, guys. Hey, buddy.
Good
Thanks,
to see you, man.
What are you, fist bump? Were you sick
let's
earlier?
do that.
Did you say you were sick or no?
A little bit.
Oh,
I'll get
okay.
you some hand cream.
All right, cool.
But I still want to kiss before you leave.
I love coming into groups like this because I get to talk about what I'm extremely passionate about, which is branding. But before I do that, I'll kind of just give you the very brief summary of how I've got to where I am today. How many of you guys have heard my story a little bit? Just so I know context, a couple of you guys, cool. I'm going to skip the New Scooters for Less part to speed this up. But New Scooters for Less is a company that I started 15 years ago as a college student. I was struggling to get to class. And we effectively solved that problem by putting all the scooters that you've seen on the road, they get stuck behind, that I constantly receive text messages of like, thanks, a-hole. So I get those, and so 15 years later, it's cool because now I'm involved with a couple of new projects that I'm ecstatic about. But how this even kind of organically came about was, to be honest with you, last year, beginning of 2018, I actually had no intention on starting a media company, on starting a podcast, on starting none of these things. I just recognized an opportunity, and I decided to seize it. So, what that was a little sticky, actually. But it's funny because I look at my grand vision for what I want, not only for this community, but for myself as an entrepreneur and for my business. And really, that's where everything began, right? New Scooters for Less. I had this in my mind that I wanted New Scooters for Less to be the scooter capital of the world, not of Gainesville, Florida. And so what I wanted to do, I kept thinking to myself, how am I going to accomplish such a task? And the answer was, well, I got to let people outside of Gainesville know who we are. So how am I going to do that? And I created a channel on YouTube called NS4L, which stands for New Scooters for Less, ns4l.tv. And I actually hired a full-time videographer to come into our dealership and really show the ins and outs of everything that we do. And my thought process was, okay, by doing this, we're going to be exposing New Scooters for Less to the entire world, but we're definitely going to let people within our industry know who we are. And that's exactly what happened. It's when we started creating content. I only had enough money for one videographer, and I hired this full-time videographer. He came in, he would film me a day, and then he would edit the next couple of days, and then he would film me, and then he'd edit, and we would just keep putting out videos, kind of showing what we were doing inside of our business. And then we started attracting people who were in the industry, who were subscribing to our channel, who were watching what we were doing. We were also exposing our business to customers. It's interesting when you actually start creating content, what starts to happen, you really start to show your values as a business, as a person. And what I found was, a mom down in Miami who has a son going to the University of Florida in the fall. Here it is, February, say it's February, looking, hey, my son starts UF in the fall. She's getting on Google. She's searching, what do I need for college, for my college kid? And starts looking up, just starts Googling and starts finding, okay, everybody's talking about scooters. At UF, there's a lot of scooters. So I need to get my son or daughter a scooter. And what happened was in August, mom would come into the dealership and she'd say, hey, just so you know, we're here today because I came across your videos on YouTube, and we realized after watching a good handful of these videos that you were the kind of business owner we wanted to buy from. So that's why we're here today. And that was the first ROI, if you will. That was like, oh, wow, this is actually working. And it really wasn't necessarily to sell a scooter to a mom in Miami as much as it was about building a brand, a reputable brand that was going to have an impact. within our industry and hopefully make us the scooter capital of the world. And when I tell people I want to make Gainesville the scooter capital of the world, I have to get very, very clear because people are like, I'm moving out if this is the case. So, no, like I don't expect Gainesville to be like Taiwan where there's like millions of scooters per mile. It's more of like I wanted people when they heard of the word scooter, I wanted them to think of new scooters for less. I wanted them to think of Gainesville, Florida. I wanted them to think of the University of Florida. And so that's exactly why we created this channel. I think now when people hear the word scooter, like the word that I most commonly hear is Vespa. A lot of people have heard the brand Vespa. And so we're really trying to accomplish the same thing with our brand. So that was like late 16 or early 2017 when we really started creating this content ongoingly. And then over time, last year we just had, it's crazy how these things just organically happen. Like I said, I had no intention on starting a media company, but we were recognized as the #1 genuine scooter dealership in the country, which was a brand that we sold. And I actually had told my team, hey, let's create a promo video for this. We were actually working with a local influencer, a YouTube influencer on a vlog. And I said, okay, let's hire this young lady. Let's have her, expose new scooters for less through her channel. And as long as it's authentic to her brand, of course. And she came in, she filmed. We sent our own film crew out to film as well when she was doing her thing, and which she allowed us to do. And we ended up making a promo video that highlighted New Scooters for Less as the #1 genuine scooter dealer in the country. But what happened next was I actually made a duplicate video that wasn't about New Scooters for Less. It was about genuine scooter companies. I basically had cut out our brand altogether, inserted genuine scooter company's logo, and said, hey guys, here's a video that we made. Give this to all the dealers in the country. This represents your brand. This is a way for you guys to promote on social media, on screens inside of dealerships. Like, give this to all your dealers. And they came back and said, Collin, this is really awesome. How much would it cost to do this for every scooter model that we sell? And then the next day we ended up doing a video contract for one of the top scooter distributors in the country, making videos for all of their products. So and actually when they asked me, I'm like, I don't know. I sell scooters. I don't know. I don't sell video. What do people charge for this? But that was really like that first seed that planted. And then from there, it just kind of grew. I was already so passionate about building brand through content, like through video content, through social media. Another example that I use a lot is like I have a Snapchat business card. Students would buy a scooter. I'd hand them a business card that the only information that I had on the front of it was my Snapchat code, and they instantly knew what that was, right? And this was a way for them to connect directly with me, the owner of the business. And I'd tell them, hey, if you ever have a question, if you're unsure about something, reach out directly to me. And I'd give them that Snapchat business card. And so I used social media platforms, I used content as a way to really build relationships with my customers, which were students, and through that effectively built brand for New Scooters for Less. And it's exciting to see where that has grown. And now to be doing a podcast and to be building a media company is pretty exciting. And so I want to spend the majority of the time answering questions that you guys might have. But the thing that I'm passionate about is branding, is personal branding. I can talk all day on these subjects, but I'll give you 3 things to think about when it comes to personal branding specifically. 1, like, why do you want to build your personal brand? That's a biggie. Like, why? You hear this term thrown around a lot: personal brand. Okay, now I don't necessarily think that personal branding is for everybody, or that building a personal brand is necessary for everybody. But it's interesting when I stand in front of a room of realtors, because I think it is necessary for each and every one of you guys. If you're not creating content and you're not showing your values through content creation, you're going to get drowned out, right? This is a very competitive world. and to be able to show what makes you unique and special is necessary when it comes to building your brand. But first thing, again, why? Like, why do you want to build a personal brand? When I was talking to the group at GATCAR a week ago, I said, look, it's interesting, like, why really comes back to your purpose, right? What's your purpose? Now, as somebody who is really invested into this community, which is the whole reason why I started this podcast, the WHOA GNV Podcast, I want to build up Gainesville and make Gainesville great. To see where this community has come in 19 years since I first was introduced is absolutely incredible to me. And so when I speak to realtors specifically, I'm like, guys, like, is your purpose to sell a piece of property to someone, or is your purpose to introduce somebody to our community for the very first time? And those are two very, very different whys. So I'd really ask you to reflect on like what your why is, and how you can build brand around that why. The second thing is what defines you. I think this is the unique value proposition, right? When people ask me, like, what is my brand? My brand for 15 years was scooters. I am the scooter pro. I was the scooter guy. I would walk around, people go, that's the scooter guy, right? Like, and I'm okay with that being part of my brand. But my brand is defined by several other things, right? It's defined by podcasting. It's defined by speaking. It's defined by my family. Like, these are things that accent me and represent who I am. So these are the things that my content is built around. These are the things that you're going to be exposed to when you consume Collin Austin's content. So those are the things that define me, right? And then the third thing is really how. Like, what ways are you going to distribute? It's so funny because I think when somebody thinks of a personal brand, they think of YouTube, or they think of, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat. Well, I mean, whatever it is, like those are platforms, those are opportunities to distribute. But that's not for everybody, and I understand that. Like, not everybody's going to be a public speaker, not everybody's going to be a podcaster. But there are significant brands. Some of the best brands in the world are built on blogging, for example. Blogging, writing. That is another way to distribute content. Some of the best content that I consume is on a platform called Medium, which is a blogging website. So these are the things to think about when it comes to creating personal brand. But really, at the end of the day, it comes to what makes you unique and how you're going to, distribute and build that brand. So now I'd like to spend, how much time do we have? I don't even sure.
A whole hour.
Oh, dang, okay. Well then.
Unless they tell you to get out, you can just keep going.
That's great. I mean, guys, Q&A is absolutely my favorite part, to give you background to the things that other people say that I'm an expert in. Social media and personal brand, like those two things definitely are near the top. But entrepreneurship, culture, values, leadership, these are all things that I'm extremely passionate about. So I'm happy to answer any questions.
Can you distinguish good video from bad video? What's good video? How long does it need to be? And have you seen anything out there, real estate related, without naming names, that drives you crazy, and why?
That's completely subjective. I
mean, that's why I'm asking you.
Right. I mean, like, some of the best videos that I consume were made on a phone like this. So, like, I think people overthink production value. Now, it's funny because a lot of people, they go, oh, this guy is saying, oh, like, production value doesn't matter. But have you seen his podcast? His podcast is like the most well-produced podcast I've ever seen. Okay, like, I knew that going into it. And the reason we created the podcast the way it was is because I'm a video first guy, right? So in 2017, when I decided to create a vlog for New Scooters for Less, I was a social media marketer, and I used Facebook a lot. Facebook was a platform that I was super familiar with because I'd been on it since 2004 when you had to have a ufl.edu email address even to get on it. So, I mean, guys, MySpace too. Like, who had MySpace? I always joke. I always like tell people my username was Collin all the girls. It's like my MySpace name. So like social media thing is something that is something that I've been invested in for a very long time, right? And so when I created the podcast, I wasn't even thinking about, like, I knew that podcast was an audio platform, but I knew that if I was going to get this in front of the right eyeballs, I was like, all right, I need to show a beautiful studio that's going to catch people's eyes as they're scrolling on their Facebook feed. They're going to come across this, boom, what is this? Oh, this is a podcast? This is coming out of Gainesville? Let me listen, because I knew that I could market in Facebook because I've been doing that a very long time. Then from there, I was like, I'm going to let everything else bleed out into, iTunes, Spotify, SoundCloud, everywhere else. But production value is, it's very subjective and it doesn't matter. I always tell people the most viral video of 2016 was the Chewbacca mask lady who was like, she was going Facebook Live. Like, she just went live on Facebook. She's like cracking up, laughing at her own camera. And it was everybody on the planet thought that was great content, right? So production value doesn't matter. What does matter is actually putting yourself out there and creating content, so getting outside of your comfort zone a little bit. That's how we grow, right? We have to be willing to get outside of the box. But the key, and even with the podcast and why it works, is because, one, it's people will find it value, right? Value is even subjective, but people are finding it valuable. So I'm giving my best effort to provide as much value as I can. And then two is the consistency, right? That podcast goes out every Monday at 8 a.m. So those are two vital things to creating brand, especially when it comes to video. Or any content, not just video. Yes.
A question about the consistency. I would love to know, if you have a whiteboard somewhere where it's okay, like film this day, edit this day, post this day, like what does that look like A to Z from creating it to getting it out there and how you're dispersing it? Like, how do you get that consistency and what does that look like?
It's funny because the only thing that's super, super consistent is the podcast going out Mondays at 8 a.m. Everything else is just on the go, but it's consistently on the go. Does that make sense? So I don't necessarily plan out, and a lot of people do, which I think is fine, but I don't plan out the 3 Instagram posts or the LinkedIn posts that I'm going to make. In between this meeting and my next meeting, which I literally will have 15 minutes, I'm pulling out my phone, I'm getting on social media, I'm seeing what's going on, I'm engaging with conversations, and then I'm typically inspired to post something that, hey, I might just leave here thinking of a question that got answered and be like, hey, I was just asked this 10 minutes ago, here's the answer. This is what I would do, and that creates a great piece of content for me to put out on social media platforms. So it's very in the moment throughout breaks in my day. And there might be a day where I only put up 1 post, super rare. But I typically try to advise everyone to post at least once per platform per day, but 3 would be optimal. If you can do morning, midday, afternoon, that would be fantastic. I know all you guys are like, oh my gosh. Please don't tell me this.
Those 3 on Instagram and you connect it to your Facebook, is that the same or you're talking 3 different?
So it depends on the content. I think, it's important to realize that the audiences are very different. And in some cases, they might not be different. Does that make sense? So there are pieces of content that I posted on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn, and it was relevant to all 3 audiences. But when I'm posting on LinkedIn, I'm definitely trying to focus more on the business professionals that are going to be seeing this, right? Which, by the way, and I said this to the GACR crew too, a huge opportunity right now is LinkedIn. LinkedIn is very much like Facebook, when Facebook business pages and that kind of thing were coming out, a lot of organic reach. You guys know John Darr, John Dart, he's been putting out these like motivational quotes. Okay, he's been putting them out on LinkedIn. Now his quote, his post didn't go viral, but I shared his post. I shared the content, and I just checked this morning before walking in. It's had 130,000 views since like a week ago. And it was literally a motivational quote that I shared and then I hashtagged. Now, why did that get picked up by the algorithm? I mean, I think a lot of times we tried to figure out the algorithm versus just creating content and letting it happen.
The important part. What did it cost John Dart to do that?
What did it what?
What did it cost John Dart?
Zero. Yeah, that's $0. And and it's so funny because a lot of people are, they're always like, oh, what's the ROI of a single post like that? What's the ROI of a tweet? What's the ROI of, showing this piece of content? Like, one, it's zero. It's zero as one piece of content, as one quote. But it's the accumulation of those things, right? It's not just the one tweet, but it's the 2,500 tweets over time. What kind of brand does that build? And there is an ROI on that. So that's why the consistency is so key. But like so many people, they say, oh, I had an Instagram. I tried Instagram. I got an Instagram account. I posted on it for 4 months and I didn't really see any results, so they stop. But if you keep doing it and you actually use the platforms to build relationships with your clients and actually get in there and engage with your clients, and I'm saying even after you've sold them a home, right? You sold them a home and now you're connected with them on Instagram and they post a picture of their kids and you're saying, that's such a cute picture, or whatever. You're just continuously building that relationship. That's what leads to the real marketing, which is the word of mouth, right? Like I tell people all the day, I tell our clients, like what we do is put logs on the fire, which is the word of mouth fire. Like that's all we do. We help you create ways to continuously keep putting logs on the fire because you need that fire to keep burning, and that fire is the word of mouth fire. So
somebody wants to link to you through one of your posts, where do they go? Do they go to a website for you? Do they just go to Facebook homepage? Do they go to a LinkedIn page? Where do you prefer that people land when they want to find out about Collin Austin?
I mean, most people will connect through the platform that they enjoy the most, right? And so I actually say this even when it comes to branding, the platforms that you genuinely enjoy are the ones that you're going to use often, right? And then social media isn't just a to-do item. It isn't like, Collin said for me to post 3 times a day, morning, lunchtime, afternoon, check, I'm done. But, to answer your question, I direct people to my website, which is collinaustin.com. And then from there, it has all of my social media links, right? And that gets them to, it's funny because in business, I've learned a lot since going from B2C to B2B.
Wait, dump the acronym and say it all out.
What? Business to consumer is the business that I've been in for 15 years, right? And now I'm in a very business to business, world. But in business, we're trying to drive people to our website to buy something, right? And it's funny because when I think of a personal brand, I mean, I still want people to go to my website, right? But I actually like my website to be a place for people to go in order to get to the place they really want to go and build a relationship with me. So I'll use my website, collinaustin.com. Hey, go here. And then they see Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, whatever, right? And then they'll connect with me in the platform that they actually prefer. And that's where we're going to start building that relationship because I start communicating through the platform that they like, which I think is key to actually building a relationship. The problem with social media in general, and this goes for everybody, including scooter shops like mine, we have stuff we need to sell, right? Like I want to sell scooters, you want to sell property, houses, commercial property, everything, right? So it's like, I get it, but the more that you promote and drive your agenda down people's throats, the less likely they are actually going to engage with you. and build a relationship with you. Whereas if you actually spend the time building a relationship, like checking in with people and connecting, the more opportunities you're genuinely going to have by creating more, of that word of mouth referral and that true authentic relationship. We want something out of everybody, and that's just not a good sales strategy. Yes.
So I've got friends and family now who have started to tell me, not about my personal stuff, but because it seems like everyone is basically selling something these days on Instagram or trying to become an influencer. Everyone is really trying to tell their story, that there are people who are getting fatigued by that and starting to unfollow. And so I get that you're going to have some attrition like that, but how do you, I guess, kind of combat that? Like, how would you try to overcome that? If people are getting sick of kind of seeing, I mean, for lack of better words, you've got people who are just selling dieting programs to leggings and that becomes their entire social media.
They will not unfollow if they actually feel a connection to you. The best personal brands are super real. They're authentic. They're not just selling their products. They're answering questions from people who are DMing them, people who are commenting on their content. They are responding, and they're genuinely building those relationships, and that's why they win. The influencer and like influencer followers, like that kind of like there's too much focus on building followings, and that's why they end up losing long term, because they're so focused on building a following that literally has no meaning. I mean, you could have 15,000 followers, but if one of the 15,000 buys a house from you every year, what good is it? I mean, wouldn't you rather have 1,000 where, 30 of them are? Right? Like it's completely different. And if you actually focus on building the relationship, you're going to have way more success. And I mean, I think like it's crazy. Like I do this with my own brand, right? Like I only have 1,700 Instagram followers. I'm not in there like trying to growth hack and follow and unfollow and do all of this BS that other people are doing. What I'm doing is actually responding to the direct messages that I'm getting. And when people are asking me questions, if it's about social media or about business or whatever it's about, like I'm in there actually answering. And then from there, I'm even asking them what they do. Like we do this with I've been doing this with the podcast, even this week, just going in saying, hey, thanks for connecting with us. I see that you're in Gainesville. Can you tell me a little bit more about what you do? Right? And because I'm genuinely interested, I want to know how they found our podcast, why they connected with me. So it's showing genuine interest in the other person and putting your agenda aside and actually looking. I mean, it's a leadership trait. It's actually looking to serve someone else. What can we do for you? Yeah. Yes.
I know you've had Mealy Pops and Coach Enoch on your podcast.
Yeah.
Like, do you reach out to people or do they reach out to you? How
We
does that
do.
generally work?
Yeah. So, I typically try. So there's 3 different ways. One is, and this is obviously the way that like works the best, is when I actually reach out to somebody. It's so interesting how things will change over time because in the first handful of episodes, like I'm like, I really want to do this thing. And I'm telling, hey, will you come and be on my podcast? Everybody's like, you're what? Like, no. And now we have zero problem getting guests on our show. And we actually, for that reason, created a nomination link on the website, which is huge for us, especially for me, because I'm a very disorganized person. So for forms to come into my email and I can keep them sorted and then go through as we're looking for guests, we'll go through those forms and actually reach out to people. And then, so that's like one way is the nomination form, which is if you just go to WHOA GNV.com, that's where you can see our podcast, but it just says nominate a guest on there. And second is through a previous guest. So if a guest has been invited on the show, their recommendation is huge to us. So we take that into account. And then really the best way is for the people who have caught my eye. because I'm in these social media platforms all the time, in between meetings, and I'm getting, and then when somebody's really catching my attention, then I'm like, this is interesting, let me invite this person on the show. And then in terms of how it gets spread out, in terms of the content, looking for people who have, startups, brand new to veteran entrepreneurs. I don't want it to be a startup podcast. We get a lot of startups. Startups, nonprofit, and I get it. Like, they really need the exposure, and we want to be able to help them with that. But we're not going to have a startup, nonprofit only podcast, right? So we try to like really keep a mix, and also male, female. I even put a call out on a podcast not too long ago saying like, I really want more female entrepreneurs, because it's funny how the episodes can go male heavy, and that's not intentional. That's not intentional at all. It's just like, these are the people who are applying, and these are the people who are catching my attention, and these are the people who have done a really great job. And and I know that there's tons of successful business women out there, and I'm like, let's go. So we are going to do some unique things in 2020. The other thing which is really difficult about you guys is that there are so many real estate agents, and I'm friends with, so I don't like this game of playing favorites, but I actually am creating like a little sub-series, which is going to be where the podcast is very like, let me hear this person's story, and then from there I just like unravel it, right? And I just ask what's interesting to me, and somehow it's valuable to everybody else too. But we have some sub-content that we're creating, which is going to be very topic focused. So we're going to come in with like, this is the topic that we want to represent, and where right now we'll record one guest or two guests at most. We're actually going to have like 3 or 4 at a time, and do like a little round table type thing. So I'm really excited about it, but it's in the works now. So I would definitely still, we book out months in advance, which is fantastic. I'm super excited, but definitely apply if you are interested in being on the show, because I want it to grow this community, and we need to expose you guys as well.
How long is each one of your shows?
They're about an hour. So they're about an hour. It's funny, like, I don't get wrapped up into stats too much. My team is very, very data driven, which is great, because data is important. I'm not saying that it isn't. But, we get an average right now. We've only released 78 episodes. We get an average of 700 plays for a half hour on Facebook alone, which, to grab somebody's attention for 30 minutes on Facebook is pretty impressive from like an attention standpoint. But it's everywhere. The podcast is on virtually all platforms. I'll go back here real quick.
I want to kind of circle back to what Lauren was talking about. So I wanted to ask, maybe this is kind of 2 parts, but do you deal with, or how do you deal with like personal fatigue of social media? Because like, I'm at a point where the last thing I want to do is spend time commenting on people's photos and liking that, and like, I just don't want to be on social media. And maybe the second part of that is like, how are you maybe transitioning to getting other people to be able to manage those type of programs? Maybe that's a solution for some of that.
Yeah, and it's a real hard question for me to answer, because I just love it so much. So I don't fatigue a lot. Like, if you follow me on Instagram, there will be days where there won't be any Instagram stories, right? And I'm just like, I'm in my office and I'm dealing with the business shit that I don't want to be dealing with that day, which, right? And like, I'm just not in the mood, and I think that's okay too. But like, again, consistently, in the macro, I'm on there very often, daily. So for me to take a day off, I think is okay. Where I worry is when somebody's like, I need to take like a week, or I need like a social media cleanse, and I need to take a month. And and that, dude, what's that?
I always do the like you type it and then you're like and delete and then just move on.
And why? Why does that happen?
I don't know. Half the time I feel like I'm responding to something that I'm like, oh, this guy posted some angry political thing, and like I get caught up in that. And I'm like, I don't need to be doing this. Like, I don't need to be doing that at all. And I think that's where I get like caught up in social media. How do I get like, I don't know, a thread that's just not full of angry people?
Start creating them. You know, I think it's easy to get sucked in. It's easy to get sucked into the political posts and the different things, right? And we all have different values and different looks. And you know, I know people who are in like these private Facebook political groups, and all they do is argue with people all day. Like that's literally all they do. So you know, me, I try to put out stuff that is going to inspire and help, and you know, really invest into somebody else's life. It's funny because you know, I've realized now that New Scooters for Less was it like, and as important as it is to me, it's a business that I own that I absolutely love. Like it's the stepping stone to what I'm really meant to do, which is to build up other people and invest in the lives of other people. And so like being able to speak in front of a group, this is what I love. You know what I mean? Being able to give back and to like teach something to someone that I've like learned over 15 years of doing it. So like I talk about that kind of stuff. I record these talks and then I put them on my YouTube channel for other people to see, you know, hoping that it'll help. And I get it, like I'm not gonna win all the attention. It's a very noisy world. I mean, very noisy. But that's why branding is so important, right? Because we have to stand apart. And like, what is it that makes you stand apart? I think the default realtor post is, here's the slideshow of this house I'm selling. Like I see plenty of that. All right, well, it's not relevant to me unless I'm interested in buying a house right now, right? So, you know, the things that I think about when it comes to this, and you know, and maybe this is where you're in, like, what else interests you? So maybe if I'm a realtor and I have I specialize in luxury listings. Well, how about I go get an interior designer, because I'm not me personally, but I'm thinking like, what if I'm passionate about interior design, right? So I have a friend or a business that I built a relationship with that's in interior design, and her and I, or him and I, are making content together, right? Now, she's or he's sharing it on their platform. I'm sharing it on my platform. It's a collaboration. We're cutting down the cost of actually creating the content because we've shared the expense. We're doing it together. You know, so these are the things that come to my mind, is like, how can you do something that's providing value? And I'm not just saying like sell interior design. I'm saying like show people how to do something, right? Like teach some, you know, the best content on YouTube is when I teach somebody how to change the light bulb on their scooter themselves. Like, that builds brand. Am I losing the sale of somebody buying a headlight bulb and doing it themselves? That's the number one thing. Oh, but you're teaching them how to do it themselves. You're like losing that service. Dude, you guys, I can go to YouTube right now. I can type how to do an oil change on my car. Do you guys really think I'm gonna get these hands greasy? Like, I've done enough of that in my 15 years with scooters. Like, I'm done with that. Like, I'm not doing, you know what I mean? But it builds brand. Why? Because I perceive this company or this person or like as being an expert in their field. And the more of it that there is, I go, dang, like this guy knows what he's talking about, or this woman knows what she's talking about, right? You're creating that perception just through content, whether or not you believe it's true. I tell people all the time, like, I am perceived already as an expert podcaster. Like, people say, I get so many people that reach out, hey, I really want to talk to you about podcasting. I'm like, cool, like, I don't know shit about podcasting. Like, I'm really good at talking on the microphone. You know, I can like get on a microphone. I'm pretty comfortable on camera, so I can like interview people, and I'm pretty just go with the flow. And so that naturally comes out. So I can tell you how to speak on a microphone and the things that I've learned through that, but you start asking me questions, all right, what kind of equipment do I need to buy? What kind of do you just need to come and write down the brand name, the serial number off our equipment? I was like, because we literally went to Google and typed podcast equipment and found a blog. The blog said, buy this stuff. All right, bought it. I don't consider myself a podcast expert, but that doesn't stop other people perceiving me as a podcast expert. So I can keep going and going and going down this rabbit hole all the time. I think what's important is to find the things that do light your fire and talk about those things, right? And not get sucked into the political posts or the things that you aren't interested in or that are consuming time and taking away from actually building brand. That's a long answer to your question, but hopefully it helps. What else? Yes. Yeah, any other questions? Yeah, you had one.
It was kind of balancing off that. It was more, I know your wife very well, so I know you have small children similar age to mine, and I struggle with taking selfies or videoing myself, because they're always around. I work with them, they're in my, and so I just don't know how you balance that, or do you turn it off at some point, or I know you can make them a part of it too, but they're already put your phone down, no more videos, get out of there. So I struggle with, they're my content, right? I'm a PTA mom through and through. I'm at the school all day long, but I struggle with how much I video them, or they see me doing it.
I mean,
Well, it's too late.
do they like it? They don't like it? They don't want to be a part of it, or?
They fatigue too, right? Mommy, they want my attention, or if we're at somewhere, no more pictures, no more this, and I try and sneak one when they're not looking or whatever, but creeper mom. But so that's kind of that they light my fire, so that's me. So I just don't know, and I also don't want to mimic that for them, so that they're, my daughter will get my phone, cheese, and I that freaks me out. I'm like, oh my God, you're 4. So yeah, that.
Yeah, I don't have a perfect answer.
I don't expect
It's funny. I'm constantly, watching what my kids are doing, and we don't. It's interesting because even me being the social media guy, we don't let our kids touch tablets during the week. So Monday through Friday, they don't even touch one. But we let them have them on the weekend and get that fill of the time. Shannon loves that she can actually set restrictions, and so they reach 2 hours or whatever, and it's you've run out of time. You hear, Mom, can you give me more time, please? So these are the things that are happening in my household, and I just try to encourage. I see my kids watching a lot of it, and it's funny because even the other day, I look at Maddox, I'm like, hey, what are you watching? He goes, Ryan. And I'm like, and I go, and I said, for you guys who don't know, this is a kid who opens toys on his YouTube channel. He gets, millionaire. And it's funny because that's what came up, and I try to make them realize the power of that influence. And I go, oh yeah, I was like, started talking, I was like, I think I said something, I was like, he gets free toys. And he's like, and my kid's like, what? He's like, what? And my oldest son, who's 10, he's like, no, he doesn't. I was like, oh, and he gets millions of dollars. I was like, these toy companies pay him millions of dollars to open their toys that they gave to him for free, And so I try to just plant those seeds and make them understand what they're perceiving, what's actually real. And I got super excited the first time I saw my son actually set up his iPad, and he's has a recording, go, hey, what's up, YouTubers? And, and I the fact that he's 6 and addressing the audience as YouTubers, I actually got juiced about that because I'm like, dude, he's creating. It's one thing to be a consumer and consume it all. It's another to start actually creating and getting outside your comfort zone, putting that out there. But when it comes to the balance, I think one, I'm thinking like, all right, you don't necessarily have to do video while you're on the toilet, but like, you know, like you can absolutely do copy. You know, yeah, you can multitask. You can do like the copy of your content while you're hiding away from the kids. And I definitely, you know, even me, like when I get home, I try to shut it down. Not like all the time, but if once the kids are to bed, all right, maybe I'm getting back into it a little bit. But I try to, you know, we all want that quality time with our children. And we don't want them to think that mom and dad are always on the phone, right? So it is, you know, I hate that things, I don't even like the word balance because I think I always say integration, work-life integration, which is something that I learned from another entrepreneur. It's not a balance, but you just have to figure it out, do what's best for you. And there really, at least in my opinion, at least right now, there isn't a perfect solution, and I can empathize with that. So, you had another one?
Oh, good cheat.
I mean, first of all, thank you for coming in, because this has me fired up, and it's great to just even
Awesome.
get to spitball with you. But
Yeah.
you know, there's so many questions I want to ask, but for the good of the group, do you think you could give us some ideas? Like, we're all realtors, we're all trying to get out there and brand. Like, if you were a realtor, if a realtor came to you, like, what would be like top 5 posts or content, or like, what would be things you'd be like, hey, do this, because this is going to be helpful just for the good of the group? Like, hey, I'm getting into social media, where do I start? What do you want to see?
There's so many ways. It's difficult because I think it does have to be unique. Like I sit here and I go, you know, right now the opportunity is LinkedIn. Like the organic reach, everybody wants organic reach. They don't like to pay for it. Like that's such a huge opportunity. But if you like legit hate the platform, then you should not be on LinkedIn. You know what I mean? Because I want you to enjoy the process. Anything with like Facebook and Instagram and that kind of thing, like, I mean, you guys have like Facebook pages for yourself, right? So you're gonna post on there, like 1% of the people are gonna see it, unless you're able to create content that actually gets people fired up where they'll share it, or you're putting money behind it. And that's a very important thing to do as well, is to put money behind it, target it to the correct audiences, because just putting content just to put content, check it off the to-do list, and hey, I posted on my Facebook page, isn't doing anything for your brand. But like that's where my mind goes. I'm always looking at like the next opportunities. Like I understand that, you know, Facebook and Instagram are probably like the key platforms for you and for your clients. But I'll say LinkedIn. Not enough people are posting on LinkedIn. And then like, don't laugh at me, but like TikTok is awesome. And it's awesome from the standpoint of like, the organic reach. Again, we want that organic reach. And I understand like, it's not necessarily, I'm not saying like you guys should spend 80% of your time on TikTok, because that makes virtually no sense for where you're at today and who you're trying to sell to. But the way I frame this up for people, I'm like, all right, like I have, you know, sure, there's a 14-year-old girl on TikTok right now who will be buying a scooter in 4 years, right? And it's funny because now I'm even watching these like TikToks where like these kids are getting their parents to perform in the TikToks with them. So the attention is like, the parents are there, even if they don't have an account, like they're still there. And the ability to, I think it's more important, at least right now, 2019, because I know all the eyes are probably rolling in the back of the head right now. Right now, 2019, it's important to understand that this platform is growing like crazy. It will be the next Instagram. I think it will be, like, my opinion. You know, and so where people were like, oh, Facebook was for college students. Okay, now it's for old people.
That's right.
Right? So like eventually it won't be, right? Eventually it'll be for the 25-year-old who's buying their first home, you know, and then it's going to continue to go from there. But I've been consuming content, and I see 40-year-old women on this platform going, I can steal your man if I want to. And I'm like, dang, okay, like, and they put little bubbles, and people are discovering the platform, and it's already aging up. And so the opportunity, I know, yeah, like, but we go through the same cycles. It's like, oh, like MySpace is for, you know, kids, and Facebook is for kids, and Instagram is for kids, and like it's the same cycle over and over.
Those kids grow up to be home buyers. Yes.
Yeah.
That, or they have influence over parents who are already, you know, buying, right? Like now I think where you start going with that is like, how do you get creative now in 2019 to actually like make it beneficial for you? But at the very least, if you're in there building platforms or building relationships, connecting, like if I was a realtor and I was interested in TikTok as a platform, as a place to build brand, I'm going to get in there. I'm going to start creating content, right? So I'm going to create stuff with my listings. I've seen realtors do some hilarious stuff, like T-Rex outfits, running through homes, like doing things that capture your attention, right? And then it's like, oh, this person's a realtor. Like, you know, so creating content is how I would start. So that way I'm super familiar with the platform. And then I would actually like start looking for the people who are within the right demographic, right? And following those people and engaging and commenting. And I know it sounds crazy because you guys are like, TikTok is for kids. Like I get it. But there is big opportunity there. Yes.
I was gonna theoretically hire a kid to help me with this TikTok project. Are they 12? Are they 14? Are they 16? Are they in college?
Do child labor laws matter?
Do I have to even bring?
I would have to say yes. They probably do matter. You know,
I have a 9-year-old.
you don't need.
I have a 12-year-old who knows how to use it, but.
I mean, you guys, if you actually spent like an hour on it and like really consuming it, dedicated an hour to TikTok, you would be, I think you would realize the same thing that I realized.
I guess I just meant from a I'm not that creative standpoint.
Okay.
Having somebody help me actually create the creative part of it.
You know, that's going to be really, really interesting for me as somebody who loves social media to see how it develops. Because I look at Instagram, right? And Instagram is very much a like document my life platform. And that's why I think the people who can really get in there and get creative with TikTok will win big, because you have to be willing to put yourself out there and get outside the box. Because when you're playing this game like Instagram document versus TikTok create content, like it takes a lot to put yourself out there, right? So it's going to be interesting to see how that develops and whether or not TikTok will even bring in some of those elements to make it more comfortable for people. I don't know the answer in terms of, do you hire like a 9-year-old to you know, help you create content? But you know, the one thing I would encourage you still like is to get in there and actually consume the content, because what TikTok is really great for is like these things will start trending. So there'll be some sort of like doing a dance to a particular song, right? And then like just doing it or doing it with your kids and having them participate in it is a great way to like get engagement. Guys, with New Scooters for Less, I think we have a video that like in the first week did like 23,000 views. And some of them are getting like millions, completely organic. So just a place to build brand.
What do those videos have in them?
What do they have in them?
Yeah.
They're like 15 to 60 second like song clips, a lot of song clips where people are dancing to songs or lip syncing and doing different things like that. Yeah, and no, let's get away from TikTok because you guys are. It sounds crazy. The one thing that I want you guys to take away from this is that it's going it's going to age up. And so you just need to realize that there will be 25, 30, 35, 40, 45-year-olds on it before long. And so, yes.
How do you stay current with all the new stuff that comes in all the time?
I think it's just because I am on the social media platforms, so I'm constantly in there engaging and just staying in tune with what's happening here in our community, and that's probably the biggest way, is just being in it a lot. Now there are things that we're doing and I'm pushing my team to do with stuff that's happening just in the world. Take like Alexa, for example. Like I push my team hard to create like an Alexa skill for the podcast and to create like a flash briefing for the podcast. More so I can just learn what it takes to do so and what the opportunities there are, because I just believe that we're going to be driving home from the gym and we're gonna go, Alexa, start the shower. And so that I just saved 3 minutes of waiting for the shower to warm up, because I'm able to just get out of my car, walk in, and take a shower. So.
Or we can do a story about instant water heaters.
Yeah.
Who do you follow? So who do you consume?
It's always dependent on what I'm interested in at that time. So like I definitely follow a lot of Gary Vaynerchuk stuff, which I think is interesting because from a child, do you follow his stuff at all? Okay, like I mean, he doesn't put his children in anything, no family at all. So I think that would be an interesting person to consume content from. The other right now, I'm actually watching a lot of Grant Cardone stuff. Like he's very over the top, but like, so am I a little bit. So it's okay. But you know, I'm entering the next phase of my career where I'm going to be doing a lot more investing. So I'm super interested in investing, so I'm consuming a lot of content around investing. I'm listening to a lot of audiobooks and that kind of thing. And so it usually just depends on like what's going on in my life at that time and the things that I'm interested in. Yeah.
Okay. IRL, in real life here in Gainesville, what groups, community, organizations, or what things are you involved in here that you feel like inspire you the most and keep you the most connected with what's going on locally?
That's a good question. Yeah, so I sit on the chamber board of directors, and I'm very active, like with the chamber and just some of the things that they're doing. So that's probably the biggest, but you know, I dabble in a lot of different groups. I have the Alachua County Emerging Leaders coming to New Scooters Fest tomorrow. We're doing like a little cocktail hour and like scooter, like a dealership tour and just talking entrepreneurship. So that's something. Startup GNV, I think, is doing a lot of great things, just a nonprofit that's really invested into our startup community. But you know, it's crazy to think that like we're doing a really good job right now of building our own community, and it really has to do a lot with the podcast. And I think that's definitely like a mindset thing. If you can actually create community, find people who are interested in the same things that you're interested in, like create groups and do that's going to be a huge win, and that's just going to lead to more trust, more brand, more word of mouth for yourself as well. So I left all my business cards in the car because like I'm the worst entrepreneur on the planet, but like I'll like go get them and I'll leave them here. And if you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out to me directly. Out of the social media platforms that I engage on the most, Instagram is it. But like I said, LinkedIn right now is definitely the place, and I've been spending a lot of time there. So definitely connect with me. My Instagram handle is @Collin Austin. That's 2 L's in my name. So please connect with me there, say hello, and if there's anything that I can do to help, please let me know.
Hey, I got you your very own limited edition crispy.
Dude, yes!
You and your videographer.
Awesome. You just knew that I needed a new hat, right? No, thank you.